Hello everybody, and welcome back to Markers and Monsters. As always, I'm your host, Colin, and today I'm excited because I get to talk to you about King Kong. Yes, the eighth wonder of the world. Now, this video I wanted to have out last week for the premiere of Skull Island, but due to some technical problems, didn't happen. But I'm glad to be bringing it to you today. Now, I've been a King Kong fan since I've been a little kid. But, I think that a lot of people that watch King Kong when they're kids are King Kong fans. I know that when this movie would play on cable TV or whatever, and I'd watch it, it had all the things that as a kid I loved, man. It had dinosaurs, it had adventure, it had a giant gorilla that was eating people and stepping on people and destroying buildings and stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff. For today's drawing, I decided to kind of take a look at the part in the movie where King Kong first meets and then abducts the girl Fay Ray. In the film, the crew of a ship, actually a film crew really, go to the island where they meet the natives, and Fay Ray is kidnapped, and she is trussed up here to be a sacrifice for Kong. But instead of eating her, or whatever the heck he does to the other sacrifice girls they've been giving him, he takes a liking to her and takes her into the jungle. And it's from there that the men of the boat, the crew and whatnot, have to go into the jungle after her and rescue her. Now, actually, these are my favorite parts of the movie. The movie really, I could say, is it has a very distinct three-part structure. The first part is the introductions to the characters and this film crew getting a boat and getting everybody together and heading off to this island where, pardon me, they have a map to a mysterious island, Skull Island, where, it's never been filmed at before, nobody's ever visited there, that kind of stuff. Complete lost world kind of place. Anyway, getting the crew together, meeting Fay Ray, all the characters, that's the first part of the movie. The second part of the movie, which again is my favorite, is where they really go into the jungles and all the Skull Island stuff, and they meet dinosaurs, and yeah, that's the best stuff. And then after that, and I hate to spoil this for you if you haven't seen this movie that's almost 100 years old, but they kidnap King Kong and take him back to New York to put him on stage, the eighth wonder of the world, and then the final act of the movie is him going on a rampage in New York City once he breaks loose. So I don't know what it is about King Kong that has made it stand the test of time. I mean, the story it's relatively simple, but I think that might be part of its lasting appeal and charm. It's a simple tale, but it's done really, really well. And it hits a lot of notes that I would say are just very classic storytelling type of stuff. It's not an overly complicated plot, but everybody can understand it. And so kind of like Shakespeare, King Kong. Yes, I'm comparing King Kong to Shakespeare, but yes, King Kong, it is truly a classic and stands the test of time, and there's lots of movies and stuff out there that are kind of similar. People go to a lost world or some kind of a place nobody's ever been before and have adventures there, and they find something, and maybe it's not exactly quite what they think it is or what it seems, and yeah, so very classic. Let's talk about the drawing here for a little bit. Pardon me. As you can see in the beginning of the video, I measured the middle of my paper so I could make this pretty symmetrical down there below, and added in those sacrificial columns that they have Fay Ray tied to, and kind of her in the bottom section of it. And then King Kong up above is offset a little bit. It's not completely symmetrical up there. And I think that gave a nice composition to the whole piece. From there, I decided to go with muted tones for everything. That's why I've kind of filled in Kong with various warm grays and stuff like that. And the colors, I'm keeping them very subdued and subtle. Now, obviously, 1933, King Kong is a black and white film. However, I decided to pop out a couple of the colors here. I didn't want to make this a black and white drawing but I wanted to keep it very subtle in terms of the tones and whatnot. And I think that works out. The greens there are one of the very few colors that are really going to kind of stick out, but even they are relatively subtle and subdued, and I think that worked. From there, basically what I'm doing once the initial colors are kind of thrown in, I'm going to go over and kind of intensify them and smooth them out. Make the darks a little darker, blend into the highlights just a little more, stuff like that. Basically, when I'm doing a drawing like this, I kind of start by filling in what's like a road map almost, and then from there I can just refine it and make it look better. And that's what I'm doing. As you can see right now, I'm actually filling in the area I've already done just a little bit darker. And I'm not going over every single section with that dark. I'm letting some of that lighter shade kind of peek through here and there, and I think that works out. Another trick of the trade, as it were, is if you want to emphasize something, you could put light colors on top of dark colors or dark colors on top of light colors. King Kong's body there is, for the most part, pretty darn dark, and so that's going to make Fay Wray pop out even more because she's going to be in, blonde hair and have a light colored dress on. That's going to pop her out a little bit more. Also at the top, I know that this scene takes place at night in the film, and I didn't want to make it look like pitch black behind him in the sky there. I wanted to make that a little bit lighter, kind of a neutral color, and that way the darkness of Kong's face, his silhouette, can pop out, and that's going to help make him pop out just a little bit more. But yeah, so getting this filled in, this was relatively quick and straightforward, but there's some, tricks that I use, pretty much every artist uses. I read a lot of books about art and artists and how they operate and stuff like that, so all these little tricks of the trade are fun to have. So let's get down into the inking here. We'll make this pretty quick. I'm keeping it loose, especially in Kong with his fur, so it's not going to be absolutely straight and static lines and stuff like that. Just kind of, wishy-washy to give you that impression that he's furry rather than smooth. Anyway, back to the movie at hand. The special effects in this thing, I think, are another reason Kong stands the test of time. Well, yeah, special effects have moved on, and you could go into a computer and make something that's, hyper-realistic or whatever. The stop-motion effects put out by Willis O'Brien for King Kong, there's so much life and energy to them. It's kind of like I would describe it in the way that a classic animated film. Take Beauty and the Beast, for example, which has a remake coming out just this week, actually, I think. The cartoon, yeah, it's a little more simplistic, and it obviously doesn't look photorealistic, but the animation has such a life to it and whatnot. Then you take the remake where they go and do the digital computer effects, and they make all of the characters that are, pieces of furniture and whatnot. They make them all look hyper-realistic, and that just, to me, sucks a lot of the life and enjoyment out. Kong's the same way. You can make Kong as realistic as any ape, via CG or whatever, but that stop-motion animation, you can see the artist's mark on it, as it were. You can see Willis O'Brien, working and to make that. It's almost like he has a performance. The artist has a performance that comes out in the special effect in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense or if I'm just babbling, but that's kind of how I look at it. And that to me will always trump hyper-realistic type stuff. It's why I hate the Star Wars prequel trilogy. I mean, it's all a CGI fest, and I feel like there's no life to any of the characters or no innovation or anything. One of the reasons I hate the Star Wars prequel trilogy. I hate the Star Wars prequel trilogy more than Winston Churchill hated the Nazis. So, yeah, that's something. But we'll get into that another day. Today we're talking about Kong. Let's get back on track. So the Kong special effects are another great reason that this movie stands the test of time. I'd also say that while this movie has some violent parts and people get stepped on and eaten and whatnot, I still think this is an awesome movie for kids. Kids can handle, dark stuff and somewhat violent stuff, and whatnot. Not to an extreme extent, but if you've got like a 7-year-old in the house or whatever, and you want to watch a cool monster movie, I think King Kong might be the way to go. It's a ton of fun, and like I said earlier, the story is simple enough that I think kids would really like it, but complex enough too that you're not going to get bored or anything like that. There's a lot of deep themes here about people going into the jungle and messing stuff up or messing where they don't belong. And, a little bit about it was beauty that killed the beast and Kong liking Fay Ray and stuff. You can all kind of get that. And I think people of a young age can get that too. But yeah, Kong, great film. And, if you're wondering, I did see Skull Island and absolutely loved it. Great monster movie. It has CG in it, but not obnoxiously so. It's just a lot of fun and a terrific just kind of B monster movie, which is something they don't do too much of anymore, and that's a darn shame. So if you haven't seen Skull Island, it's got my seal of approval on it, definitely. But anyway, I'm sorry I'm rambling here. Let's finish up the drawing and add in these trees here in the background. I'm going to darken Kong just a little bit more to help Fay Ray pop out a bit more. And I think even you can see as I'm doing that and starting to put in the shadows in his like chest area, it's starting to make her stand out even more. And I think that works out. I think this was a great composition. It was a ton of fun to do, and love talking about King Kong and monster movies, giant apes, dinosaurs, all that good stuff. Awesome. I love it. Let's take a look at the scan, and you guys tell me what you think. I think it turned out pretty darn cool. You know me, like I said, big fan of monsters, King Kong, stuff like this. I'm super pumped about the King Kong vs. Godzilla movie they're doing in 2020. Why not, man? The movies could use more monsters. That's all I'm going to say on that. But thanks for listening to me ramble about King Kong. Hope you liked the drawing. Hey, maybe you learned something today. I don't know. But if you did, awesome. Check out all my social media stuff. It's up there now. Drop me a line, say hi, whatever. It's all good. And we'll see you on the next episode of Markers and Monsters.
We're millionaires, boys. I'll share it with all of you. Why, in a few months it'll be up in lights on Broadway. Kong, the eighth wonder of the world!